Alright guys, it's been a little bit since I've done a video. Thought I'd pop in and do one here. We're going to work a little bit with specular image on the vehicle shader, or vehicles themselves. If you're on the Giants Developer Network, I suggest looking at this material file. It's a PDF. I'd have to sign in. I didn't get a chance to sign in this morning. I can show you like right where it is, but it's, if you just do a little bit of search and join Giants Developer Network, look at documentation, you'll find this FS19 vehicle material system PDF, and it's basically, we're going to go over this a little bit more in detail, so I explain it. But this is your red layer, your green layer, and then your blue layer. So your red layer on your specular image, and it has this alien look, kind of the bright green, yellow, and blue. But like I said, your red layer is your scratches in the wear. And this is different from 17 because they didn't have that. You're going to have your ambient inclusion in your green layer, so red, green, and then blue is going to be your dirt. So the more white in the red is going to give you more of your wear. It's going to give you wear. The whiter the image is going to be more wear. On the ambient inclusion on the green layer, any darker areas is going to be your shadow. So white would be very little shadow, and the light affects that. From what I understand, that's how I explain it. And on your blue layer is your dirt. Same thing here. The more white you have, the more dirt you're going to have. So like I said, we'll get into that a little bit, and I'll show you how to actually do this in GIMP. So what I'll usually do is I'll just grab a specular image. I'm just going to open up my 19 data files here, and if we go to any vehicle, it's going to have that specular. And all I do is I just basically pull this image right into the GIMP icon like so. Now Shywizard is the one that I was using the Paint Shop Pro to look at the specular images before and split them, but Shywizard, thanks to him, kudos to him, he showed me how to do this in GIMP. I have not uploaded to the or downloaded the most current version, because at the time this is the version I was working on this. I don't usually load the bitmaps on this, but the version I'm using right now is 2.8.22. He said the latest version this will work, but I was having some issues with some newer versions, so I've just kind of stuck with this one. I haven't downloaded the latest yet. So what you want to do is it'll bring up your specular, and this has to be a DDS from what I've found, so we'll kind of show that later. If you try to pull in a PNG, sometimes it won't work as well. But what you do is you go to your colors, and you go to components, decompose, and I leave this default RGB, decompose the layers, hit OK. What that does is it breaks that down into your layers, so you have your red, your green, and your blue. Like I said, if you highlight each one of these, once again your red, that's just going to be your wear areas. If we grab the green, as you can see, there's your shadows, the darker areas. And once again, dirt. And you got to be really careful with the dirt. It doesn't take much. As you see, it's a really light, it's not a very bright shade. You can see on the corners a little brighter. But anyway, that kind of breaks down. That shows you how you actually can break these layers down, because we're going to basically paste stuff into these. And then also, if you want to go back to the original, once you edit this, all you have to do is go colors, components, and compose. And you got to kind of watch this, that it matches over here. Sometimes when you bring stuff back in, it doesn't match, so you got to make sure it's selected the same way. It's kind of tough. I don't know if you can. Yeah, I guess you can kind of come out and look, but you got to watch what these are named. Sometimes you can actually pull them from other images, I believe. Once you hit OK, it's just going to go back. So basically, those two images look the same, and then you would go File, Export As, wherever you want to put on your computer, and then you have to make sure when you do this, you have to name it a DDS. And you have to export, not save. If you try to save, go File, Save As, go to my desktop, and we call this sample.dds, and I hit save, it's going to give you an error. You have to actually go File, Export As, desktop, sample.dds. Once you hit enter, then you're going to want a DTX1 with bitmap. Hit OK, and bam, it's done. So it just kind of gives you an idea how that specular works itself. Also, you do need the DDS plugin for GIMP. I'm not sure if the latest version has that included or not, if you don't already have the DDS plugin. So as you can see right there is my sample. I spelled it sample. Apologize for that. Alright, that just shows you how that image itself works. What we're going to do is we're going to jump into Blender. I just made a real generic shape here, just added some cubes just to kind of give some shading. But the first thing we're going to mess with here is I'm going to show you how you can make, and there's probably a better way. This is the only way right now I know how to make an AO, Ambient Occlusion. So what I'll do is I'm going to go right into the modeling here. I'm going to go to material. So what you have to do to bake is the first thing you have to do actually is come up to your settings here. I got to be in, whoops, tab. I'm going to show you, I've already got an issue I'm going to show you that you'll run into if you don't watch it. But we're going to be on that there. We're going to go to material. I'm going to actually get rid of my material and add a new one. So we're starting from fresh basically. Let's see. And then also what we're going to do is we're going to go down to the scene box, and by default this is going to say Eevee usually. We're going to switch it to cycles because you can't bake with Eevee yet as far as I know. Maybe the newer, I still have 2.8. I don't have the updated version of Blender either. So we're going to go cycles. Once again, we're going to make sure we have a material. And what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to go into here. Oops. I'm going to click on here. I'm going to go image texture. I'm going to hit new. And you can go up a little higher if you want, but just to start with, we're just going to do a 1024. And for giants, you have to make sure this is like 256, 512, 1024. What's the next one? 2048. So you have to make sure you have those ratios, or you could even go 1024 by 512. You just have to make sure you keep that correct. Now for ambient occlusion, I'm going to want a white for my background, because remember, dark is shadow. We don't want shadow all around. Then I'm just going to go ahead and hit, or actually we're going to call this sample AO. I'm going to hit OK. So then what I can actually do is I come over here to my, when I'm in modeling, this is basically my UV editor. So we're going to have the sample AO selected so it's all white in the background. Now, so what I was going to show is I've already moved these down for the UDIM system because I want to make a color mask. So when I go to try to bake this, it's going to give me an issue, and I'm going to show you what will happen here. Excuse me. So we're going to go to the scene tab. We're going to scroll down and get rid of this performance. We're going to actually just select ambient occlusion. We're going to hit bake. And as you can see, it baked real fast, but nothing happened over here. So, and I also forgot that I don't want clear image either, so let's go back and let's do this. Go back to material. We're going to do a new. We're going to go sample AO. Let's call it 1. Leave it white, like I said. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab all of our UVs here, and you can use the material selector to go up or down, but I've found that you can actually go GY1, and you can actually move one grid at a time by actually moving it Y on the Y axis. So we're going to go back to our bake here, and I'm going to actually uncheck the clear image because I want to keep that white background. So now when we hit bake, it's going to make our ambient occlusion. It's basically going to give it some shading, but it leaves that white background. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to image, save as, go to my Blender here, I'm going to do spec, test, and we're just going to call this, man, I can't spell today, sample AO, let's make it a PNG. Alright, so now that's a simple one. As far as I know, that's the easiest way to do a ambient occlusion, and depending on your model, it doesn't always come out right, but as you can see there's shading here where these boxes are interlapping. So what I want to do now is I'm going to go to my material, and I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that material, which you got to be in object mode. So we're going to get rid of that. We're going to add another one, new, and once again I'm going to go in here, I'm going to go image texture. For this guy I'm going to go new. I'm just going to do a 1024 again. I'm going to call this dirt, and I want to make this, remember the dirt, the more white it is, the more dirt. So this one I want to do a black background. I'm going to hit OK, and we're going to go right to the texture paint tab, and by default I believe this is what should pop up for you. You need to make sure you have a material in there. You're going to have some issues, going to look like purple or something like that, so you have to have that material to start your painting, and it's going to basically give these tools over here. I'm going to actually hit T to get rid of that, and if I hit N it's going to give me my brush details. I'm not an expert at paint texture, so kind of work with me here, but I'm going to kind of show you how I ran through it. What you have to make sure you do is if you come over to the texture itself, this is where you can load in. What I did is on my startup I actually loaded in these images, so I already have brushes started. In fact, let's see here. If I click on that, it shows the brushes I have set up. If you want to add another one, basically all you would do is you could sit here next to that. I hit the N button. You would hit new texture, and it's just going to bring up that black image. To actually edit that image, you would come over to your let's see, this is the texture tab itself, and you would actually go to open. And what I have is I have a bunch of brushes in here. You have to play around. I don't have some really good links to show you where to get these brushes, and you can just use a white brush as well. You wouldn't have to use the textures, but I just kind of like some of these textures, and I just literally go in, pick the icons. Let's actually go back up one, textures, have better brushes, and I'm not having luck finding my brush mat. There we go, there's a bunch of them. So this is just kind of a rough texture here I can use. So now when I click over here, now I have these different textures I can mess with. Like I said, I'm not great with the paint, so you have to kind of deal with me here. But what you can do is if you set it up, so if we go to, there's tile, there's view plane, it's some weird features you have to play with a little bit to figure it out. That's a bad example. If we go to texture itself, so you can zoom around and everything like you normally would, but what gets goofy is if you hit F, you can change your paintbrush. Like I said, just hit F and then you just move your mouse in and out, and everything else as far as moving around is the same. But if you're on view plane and you see it just kind of paints like it's a regular brush. If you go to tiled, it's gonna give, basically it's just gonna, like it's saying it's tiling as you would see over here. It's just gonna kind of repeat that image. I don't like that one. And then random, just kind of saying, it's like it says, it just kind of throws it in there. So what I usually do when I want to actually paint is I stick with that view plane, I believe. That way you can just kind of paint a little bit. And then the really cool one is the stencil. So here you hit the shift and move around your scene, but then you use your right button on your mouse, you can move that around. Well, the cool thing about this, so you can hold your shift key. In fact, what I should do is I'm going to come over here to N, and I'll use my shortcut start. So now when I use my buttons, you can see, just in case I forget to tell you what I'm hitting down here. But so when you hit shift, right button, and up and down with your mouse, right and left, it changes the size of that stencil. And then right button, move around, moves that stencil. But then what you can do is you can just set it like over here, and when you left click and paint over the top of it, just like it says, it's going to use it as a stencil. So it's just kind of a cool option. Now, the thing you have to watch is just like real life when you're painting. If you shoot at an angle, it's going to splatter like that. So you got to be careful when you're painting, that you keep that in mind. Like I said, just like you're painting a box in your garage, basically. Now you can just go to brush. It's just going to paint a solid line like so. You can also change your strength over here, so it's not as, see how it's just showing up, and even on the video it might not even be showing up because of the light quality, but that just gives you an idea what it would look like with with a regular brush. But I went back to the crack one, and I think that's set up in my material. I apologize, so you're gonna have to look a little bit when it comes to setting this painting up and the textures, because I fought with a little bit, and I just kind of threw a template together and left it on my starter, but this will get you kind of started. So once again, let's go back to the view plane, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to simply, I'm going to go around the edges. I think I found as well, if I come down to here, somewhere I found it looks a little better performance. Big. You can see a little better if you mess with some of these drop downs, because I don't like the lighting a whole lot, so you got to kind of like pick your poison on how you want to see what's going on. If you go to this mode, it doesn't show you anything, so it just makes it tough with the lighting in Blender. Like I said, I'm not good enough yet with 2.8 to give you a better idea of how you actually see what's going on. But I usually drop this strength down a little bit, and you can see, pick some different textures. This one's not the best, but it'll get us started. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this cursor down, and we're just going to simply draw right on these edges right now, just to kind of give us a dirt look. As you can see, I kind of splattered over. Like I said, you got to be real careful. You hit your angles right. You don't have to be perfect. Like I said, I'm no artist. You just want to kind of get a dirt edge around them corners, because that's usually where your vehicles, if you look at your vehicle Specular files, they're a little dirtier on those edges like that. Just kind of go around. Like so. Because what's cool is you can actually come back, even though I'm not a great drawer, we can come back and kind of clean this stuff up. So you can see anytime I mess up, it'll do that overspray I'm talking about. We can even come in here and do these edges as well. I'll probably take too much time on this. I should have done a sample, kind of like the cooking shows, right? And what I can do is I can stop halfway through this here like this. That way you can kind of see the difference of what I painted and what I didn't paint. So yeah, let's just do that. Let's get to here. Just kind of stop so you can see half the model. So what's cool is you can come back over here, and there's a smooth, or I'm sorry, soften, and you can pick what brush you want. I guess it doesn't matter, but you can actually clean this up so it's not so pixeled there, I guess. You can just kind of, come around here and play around with the soften. You can go to smear is a cool option as well. You can kind of blend things in. As you can see, this gives a little bit of life to it, rather than just looking like it was computer generated by doing that brush like that. It makes it look a little more natural. But the cool thing is I like this little splat texture I found, and I'll actually, so we can hit F, zoom it out, and you can actually just paint on it, which sometimes you gotta bring this up. You can paint like that. Control Z, I don't like what's that. Or you can, the cool thing is you can go into that stencil like I was talking about, and then if you actually shift, bring that down a little bit, you can actually move this around. It'll literally look like you splattered something on the side of this if you if you mess with it, you know, you can take and go like so, and it'll actually give that splattered look to it. And you got to kind of play with that a little bit as well. But all I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go back to the view plane. I'm just going to give this some dirt look on the faces, just kind of so we have something. Because I don't want to get into painting. I'm once again no painting expert, so I'll just smooth it out. And mess, we can do some smear. It's like anything else with painting, you just gotta kind of mess around with it until you get what you like, because you'll get it into the editor and it'll look really odd, so you just have to play with it a little bit, and you have to play. The biggest thing is playing with your strength on your, if you get too bright, it's going to be really heavy dirt, so like I said, this is not going to be the perfect texture. We're just wanting to get an idea. So now at this point, I'm going to jump back into the modeling, and I'm actually going to come in here and I'm going to go image, save as, we're going to call it sample dirt, and just go ahead and save that. Now we're going to come back over here again, under the material section we're going to do another new image, and we're going to call this where. And for the where, we want a black background as well, so we'll hit OK. Now we jump over to texture paint, zoom out. It's all black, so that's what we want. Off of where, you got to be kind of careful as well. You know, you get too carried away, it's going to look odd. So here's a perfect example. Go back to the brush mode, where like the slash would be kind of a cool idea. You can kind of, you know, come in here and put the slashes here, which looks kind of inky there, but you can just put these on there for wear. And let's see, I'm going to turn the strength way down. Let's just put some spots in here. Biggest thing I usually see is around the corners, like I was doing with the dirt. They'll have the scratches and the wear. So, but this will just kind of give you an idea. It's going to look probably horror that way. We'll go back to the brush. We'll actually bring this way down. So what they'll usually do is they just come right here and they'll just go around these edges. Crank this up. Probably even with a finer brush itself, but I could actually come in here and actually put W for wear, just to give an idea when you get into the game. Once again, all you'd have to do is come back. I come back to my modeling so I can actually see it, and I go to image, save as, and we're just going to call this wear sample. Hit OK. Alright, now I want to make this color selectable, so we're not getting too much detail on this. Watch my UDIM video as far as that goes, but we're just going to go ahead and select all my UVs again, hit GY -1, enter, or like I said with the material selector, you can use your up or your down, but I'm just going to put in a 0 channel. Something I suggest always is Control A. Make sure your rotation scale is locked. I've already done this, but make sure as well, if it's a new model like this, that you would come in and add the edge split modifier, hit apply, or it'll look kind of odd. It'll have some weird light glitches, and it's going to split these faces up if you don't do that. So what we're going to do here is we're going to hit File, Save As. I'm just going to call this Spec Sample Blend, and we'll go File, Export, Giants i3D, Spec Test i3D, or no, I'll go, that was my old one. We're going to call it Sample Spec i3D. Hit OK. So now we should have our i3D file. So when I go into my drive, Blender, I'm going to go spec test. And this is actually the sample spec here. Now what you have to do is, it's showed before, you can do material templates, but as a start out, it's going to look funny. We've talked about this in UDIM and everything else. You just have to make sure you grab that cube. I need to make a specular yet, but go to the shader, and I have a shortcut on my desktop for the 19 data files. We're going to go data, shaders, and V for vehicle shader, like so. And we're going to go to color mask. Like I said, nothing's really going to show up yet because we don't have our image file set up. I should have done that first, but oh well. So what we're going to do is, I'm just going to take one of these samples. I'm going to take the sample dirt. Remember how we talked about how to be a DDS. We're going to file, save as, sample dirt, and we're going to make it a DDS. Hit save. DTX1, we don't have to worry about bitmaps because we're not going to pull it into GIMP anyway. Going to hit OK. I'm going to minimize that screen. And we're going to take this sample dirt and we're going to pull it over to GIMP. Takes a little bit to load all the plugins and everything. Okay, I'm not going to load bitmap even though there wasn't any. So right away we got it here. We're just going to go ahead and go colors, components, decompose, so we break it into our layers. So we're here, and what I do is I might be able to file. Let's go edit. I haven't messed with importing an image. I'm usually too lazy, and I could probably do that though. We go file, open as layers, and we can actually bring in. So we want the sample. We already have the sample dirt, so let's do the sample AO and see what happens. Yeah, so that did work. I'm too lazy. I bring it in from paint.net, but. So the blue we want to leave the same. That was our dirt. Remember, and then our AO is a green. So let's go ahead and get rid of that green layer. All I did was right click, delete layer. So we have our dirt, which is that one. That's our AO. Now we're going to go ahead and do the same thing. We're going to open as layer, and we're going to bring in our where sample, like so. We'll pull it up top, oops, like so. So we've got our where, our AO, and our dirt. Now we're going to simply go colors, components, compose, hit OK. And it looks a little familiar. There's a lot of black on there. So it's going to be a heavy shading on the AO side. I'm not really crazy about that. You don't usually see that much black, but I think that's areas that are covered anyway. So file, export as, and go to my recently, spec test, and we're going to call this sample spec.dds, hit OK. We're going to do DTX1, generate bitmap, hit OK. Now when we go out to our cube, we can simply come over here and we can bring up our gloss. OneDrive, Blender, spec test, and there's our sample spec, like so. As you can see, we got some stuff going on now. I'm even going to grab a normal map. Don't really need it, I don't think, but we're going to go to my desktop, 19 data, shared. We're just going to go default normal. Okay, so what you have is once again, as you can see, the crazy where I did the little slashes, and to show you that's what's going on. If we scroll down to our material here, and so you got wear and your dirt. So if we switch this to 0, see how those shiny spots went away from the wear. So that's how you toggle your wear and your dirt. I've messed with the script up here. It doesn't work real good for me. So once again, there's your wear, and you turn off your dirt. You see everything went to yellow. And like I said, we didn't get real heavy on the dirt. That's why it's not really showing up real crazy. Like I said, that gets rid of your wear and dirt. As you can see, is your shadowing. So what happens if I hit Control L to bring a light in? See how that goes away? That's that shadowing I was talking about. So that when that light comes in and out, you can really see that shadow effect. If there's no light at all, you can see the shadow around there from the AO. And I can go in and edit that image and kind of show you. I've done that as an example before to show you what the wear and everything is. So that basically just, it shows you, and like I said, I can actually change this. We can make this red, and we can change this to chrome if you wanted, and you'd still get the same effect on each material. So there's your wear, there's your dirt. And like I said, to give you an idea, here's a way to cheat as well. Let's see. So if I actually come in and I go to my sample AO, let's see, and actually brush here. Okay, so if we actually come in here and I just put a W like so, file, save as, sample AO, 1, enter, enter. And we go to the sample dirt, and I actually put a big, Z, white, put a big D, file, save as, 2, okay. I don't know why I put a W there. That actually should be S for shadow. Oops. Like so. File, save. And then I would bring in spec test. Where's the wear sample? Here's red, green, white. And we already showed that, but if I put a big W on there, file, save as, 1, enter, hit OK. Now if we go back in GIMP, go to this file, you can actually delete these. File, open as layer, there's our sample dirt, file, open as layer, layer sample, file, open as layer, there's your AO, so AO is the green, there's your wear, AO, dirt, color, component, compose, hit OK, go file, export as, let's go to recent, spec test, and we're going to call this 1, hit OK. Now we come over here, I'm just going to go ahead and load that new gloss file. So there's that. And now, as you can see, let's see if I can find the W here. So there's that wear. So if we go in here and we turn off the wear, as you can see, the wear goes away. Turn that back on. Actually, we'll leave that off. I'm going to go ahead and like so, and then the dirt, I don't know where the dirt ended up. Oh, there's the dirt, it's upside down. So if I turn the dirt off, it gets rid of that D. And then for the shadow, find the S again. There's the S. As soon as we turn the light on, Control L, I'm going to actually Control F to point it at that area. Oh, making a liar out of me. Probably because it's so dark that it's going to make it even more extreme. Doesn't help either. I have a weird material here. There we go. So if I take the light and I get rid of it, see how it gets really dark? So as you can see, some shadow still will show, but as you can see, that's a shadow. Just to give you an idea, if we take this and move it around, it affects it. So if you're shading your shadow, I guess you kind of get rid of it there. So anyway, that's just a rundown. If you have any questions, as always, shoot a comment in the video below. But hopefully I gave you a little bit of an idea how to actually do the composing here and actually paint it in Blender. Said it's not perfect, but if you have substance painters and people that mess with that, I don't pay for that, so I don't use it. Hope this was helpful. Please join my Discord if you have any questions. I can help you a little more in there, and you can find that by going to my website. Actually, if you just go to SB mods, click here, and then you go to my contact, like so. And then if you just hit the Discord here, it'll give you my invite. So, till next time, guys, take it easy.